Hi and welcome to the Reading Roads podcast and part 2 of our Barbenheimer special. Well, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for Heim Time. And sauntering in from the desert days from all the atomic testing is my OG co-host who has definitely not been murdered. It's David.
Hello. Yep, I definitely don't have radiation poisoning.
David, you left the house and you saw a film.
Well, to be fair, I've been leaving the house quite a lot, just not to the cinema. The cinema's a scary place. I actually have a fun story to tell you about Oppenheimer. It's not actually that fun. Not for me anyway. But it will raise awareness about another issue, Neil, which is very important. You know how much we like to raise awareness about things.
Yes, we do, David. Are you going to tell me that now or are you going to save it for later?
I could tell you it now, I suppose.
Tell us a story.
Oppenheimer, when we rocked up at the cinema, my belly, I've got a bit of belly problems. I got there and I was like, all day, I was like, okay, I can't have this food, because it's a 3-hour film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a chunky boy of a film, and anything that's normally about 3 hours has an interval in it, or an intermission, whatever it's called. Anyway, I was sitting there, and just as the credits were starting to rolling, my belly goes, and you can feel it swell and push down. And as you know, and I've probably mentioned before, I have IBS. I had an IBS flare up right as Oppenheimer was about to start. Like literally fucking, do you know that really bloody annoying Cineworld Ultimate advert? I think that was about to start. So I'm kind of glad I missed that. But that was going on, I was rushing out of the cinema, and the screen that we were at in the Dover cinema.
Oh, the toilets are quite close unless
yeah,
you're
so we
in.
were at the first screen as you come out, like in the entrance, like the first screen.
Then.
So we went
you
out the main back out the main entrance and back into the toilets that were just there. And I'm sitting there on the toilet, and I could fucking hear the Oppenheimer start, because it started with a massive right. I nearly vibrated off my seat as I was taking a crap. If anything, it actually helped the flow happen more and got it all going. So I'm there like, oh, fucking hell.
So what you're telling me is Chris Nolan cured your IBS for the day?
It helped it, for sure. I missed maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes of the film. I started the movie, like getting back into the cinema, going up the stairs, right as he was about to poison the apple.
Okay, yeah, you didn't.
That's when, so I missed about the first 3 minutes. Spoiler alert for that, I guess.
I mean, it's a spoiler podcast, David. We're good.
But anyway, that's my story. Whether there was anything really significant that I needed to know in those first 2 minutes or 3 minutes of a 3-hour film, probably, knowing Nolan, I probably missed some really key details.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole bit with the mirror universe and the alternate timelines and that, but don't worry about that.
Fuck, now I know it. That makes sense now.
Yeah, he actually explained the ending to Tenet at the start. That first minute and a half. Now, before we get into the film, David, have you fully Barbenheimed yet? And by that, I mean, have you seen both? And have you seen both back to back?
I have not, no. I haven't been a part of, is it the 4th biggest box office weekend ever?
It's getting there.
I think it was.
It's going
4th,
up
right?
by the
so
week,
you had
man.
Endgame, Infinity War, and I think Star Wars, Force Awakens were the top 3, and then I think Barbenheimer made the top 4 of the biggest box office weekends ever. Yeah. And I haven't seen Barbie yet, but it's on the list. I will probably leave the house again, and I'll take it. I'll get myself out there.
Will you wear pink, David?
Yeah, I will. Natasha was wearing pink for Oppenheimer. She mixed it up.
You turn up in your trench coat and your pork pie hat.
Yeah, I was looking good.
Well, whoever listened to our last episode, which was our Barbenheimer Part 1, which was our Barbie special, I myself also did not get a chance to fully Barbenheimer because work. But I was in London filming all day, and I literally got back, had 10 minutes, got to my house, dropped all my stuff off, shot back down to the cinema, and got in right as it was about to start. And I was just like, there's no way I could have done Oppenheimer after a full day of filming in London, man. I was like, I need something light and too relaxing, and that's going to be Barbie. And it was. And then I went and saw Oppenheimer the next night. So I did it. I Barbenheimed, but not in the same day, sadly. So I only half Barbenheimed.
That's okay. You've done better than me, because mine are... I haven't even barbened yet.
You haven't even barbened. You Heimed, though. You Heimed.
Yeah, I have Heimed.
Now, David, how busy was your cinema, and what day did you go on?
Yeah, it was packed. I went on the Saturday? the Saturday.
Oh, we were on the same day.
Yeah, we were on
And
the same day. Yeah,
Actually, you went like a few hours
I
before me.
was 6:30 viewing. You were at the 8 o'clock viewing.
That's the one.
Yes, yeah. So that was Saturday, was it?
It was rammed, yeah.
Yeah, it was packed. Yeah, me and Natasha had. Do you know how the seats are? There's like 3 seats going up the aisles.
Yeah.
So we had just the 2 seats, and there was nobody next to us on the right hand side.
Someone next to you.
No. So there wasn't anyone in the one seat that was next to us. But pretty much every other seat aside from the very front wasn't. It was busier than it was for
Dune, Spider-Man.
No, for Avatar.
Yeah, wow.
It was busier than Avatar, even though Avatar obviously grossed a lot more money and had more showings. It should be said. So Avatar was showed like fucking every 5 minutes in our cinema. But yeah, no, it was busy.
Well, man, yeah, I mean, it was still busy on the Monday because I said I went on the Saturday for Oppenheimer. And then Monday there was a secret screening which ended up being Talk to Me, that brilliant new Aussie horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely go and see that, guys, when you get a chance. But I had to park almost down. Now, this doesn't help people who don't know Dover Cinema, but it's kind of like an American block style. So all the stores around the side, and then it's a big car park in the middle. I had to park the furthest away from the cinema. I was literally almost in the overflow car park next to Marks and Spencer's. That's and it's on a Monday night. A Monday night, man. I couldn't believe how busy it was.
Yeah, we had to park roughly around there as well. Like out the back, like what is it? Like the Iceland frozen store or whatever it is, which is like 5 or 6. It's like 5 stores back. So to paint the picture, you got the Cineworld there, and then you got like 5 different stores, all in their own like blocks. It was right back there. That's where we had to park. So it's busy.
It's very busy. Yeah. So it looks like Barbenheimer has actually saved cinema. Until the strike kill it again and put it on life support.
It blew my theory out the water of saying, or do you remember when I was like maybe 10 or 12, 40 episodes ago? I was going on about, is cinema dying? Obviously not.
Just needs to be marketed right, apparently.
Yes. Well, Oppenheimer wasn't marketed at all compared to Barbie. Barbie just like embraced everything. Oppenheimer, I swear the only thing they sent out was a picture of Cillian Murphy's face, being like, no one can see my image, but
it's just David doing his best Cillian Murphy face, which is, it is what it is. But yeah, currently Oppenheimer is on 400 million worldwide, which is amazing. Considering it's a 3-hour plus dark drama about the man who gave us the power to destroy ourselves. So, David, your initial reaction was?
I loved it. Coming straight out of it, I genuinely was just like, this is Nolan. This is a fucking masterpiece. It's like Nolan's
cinema.
Magnum opus is the word. Is that a word? I think that's
Magnum
the word.
opus.
Opus, yeah. That's like his greatest achievement, isn't it? Like his greatest work. I genuinely felt that on the way out. However, now having reflected on it a bit more, I'm like, certain moments in it were like fucking mind blowing, like really amazing cinema at its absolute finest. But then there were other bits in between, or those moments actually didn't have enough context behind them to make that moment more powerful and impactful.
So you kind of revised it down a little bit. So still brilliant.
It's still a 5-star film.
Yeah,
I'm not changing my rating. It's a 5-star film.
Same.
But I wouldn't necessarily call it a masterpiece now. I wouldn't call it Nolan's best work now. Whereas when I came out of it, I was like, this is fucking Nolan's best work. It's like, definitely, it's better than like The Dark Knight. It's better than Prestige. It's better than Inception. It's better than Interstellar. It's better than... There's that straight up, my first reaction was, this is amazing. And I think that might be because with a lot of Nolan's films, you kind of need to watch them twice to really get them. And I feel like with this, on that first watch, you understood it. You got everything about it. Whereas like with Tenet, you've got to watch like 5 times.
I've only watched it twice. That was enough. I think, because with Nolan, I think the thing is, he doesn't need to... Because, when he did Dunkirk, he even still managed to do his like triple storylines taking place at different time periods, even in a historical biopic then. Yeah. But by the start of this film, I mean, so let's get into it a little bit. I mean, this is Nolan, of course, so we know we're not going to get the film in complete chronological order, and we do start with the 1954 hearing that was convened to strip Oppenheimer of his security clearance.
Do we?
As post-dropping the bomb, Oppenheimer kind of has reservations about the USA and how the world will continue to develop atomic power.
So that's how the film started.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
There you go. Oh yeah, so again, I can't remember. It's a long film. So that's what happened, and then it cuts back to him as a 22-year-old
That's where I
studying at Oxford
started. Okay.
in 1926 when he tries to poison his thing's apple. But then it kind of more or less follows a chronological path. Occasionally, you just keep jumping back to the hearings in '54 for a bit of tension and a bit of building towards something towards the end. Which that hearing and what happens is going to be the climax of the film.
Mm.
But for a Nolan film, it's very, very straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very linear. It doesn't mess you about like for instance with Dunkirk, you only realise what's happening
Near the
like
end, wasn't
at
it?
the very end, and then you're like,
Yeah,
oh fucking hell, I want to watch it all again. Like I said, you want to watch it a second time. Whereas with this film, you're very like even I missed that beginning of that hearing, and then
yeah,
every time it cut back to it, I'm like, I knew that wasn't
yeah, exactly.
that's obviously not happening at the same. It's obviously happening in the future because he's saying he's not met him. Robert Downey Jr. is literally saying that he's not met Oppenheimer yet, and he's already developed the A bomb at that point.
Mm.
So it's obvious. You know history. You know when the A bomb was used. So you know the A bomb. If it's not been used there, then we've obviously and he's developing it in this one shot, and then it's not being used yet in this. It's already been used in the next shot. It doesn't take a genius to put two and two together.
I mean, I'm going to agree with you. Like, since my first viewing as well, I've gotten a little colder on it. If I'm honest, I mean, on a filmmaking level, acting performances, cinematography, just sound design, all the
sound
technical
design,
aspects of the film,
the
it's
sound design
exquisite, isn't it?
it's enough to make you drool. It's so beautiful.
But
I don't think anyone does sound design like Nolan does.
no, I
It's
mean, and I think the sound it was better. Like the dialogue, I know some people still complained, but I was like, well, no, for me the dialogue was a lot clearer. I didn't feel like I was missing anything in this compared to something like Tenet.
my only issue with the dialogue, nothing to do with clarity. It's more just certain moments. You're like, people wouldn't talk like that, but that happens in fucking every movie, really, where you've got just unrealistic dialogue happening between people.
There's a lot of exposition and technical info in this film as well, isn't there? There has to be.
Yes, yeah, of course, because people don't know fission and fusion reactions, do they? Like, you talk about a fission reaction, they're just gonna be like, what? Like, just it's a reaction that happens. Don't worry about it. You don't need to know the science behind it. You just need to know that it creates a big boom.
I mean, coming out of it, I think I didn't have that big reaction where it made me question life and like man's inhumanity against man that I was maybe expecting a little bit. I just kind of come out and was like, yeah, that was really well done in like all aspects, but it didn't hit me emotionally, man. I didn't come out thinking, oh yeah, humanity's fucked. We're really gonna do it someday. Which is, I don't know. I think like again as well. Someone had mentioned to me, look, it's brilliant, but it is also essentially three men. It's essentially 3 hours of men in rooms talking, which I know is a little reductive. And it is the best men in the room talking for 3 hours. If you're ever going to do a film with men talking in rooms for 3 hours, this is a textbook example of how to do it. But I was glad to find there were a few because I started thinking this. Like I was looking at all the reaction online, and immediately I was like, I don't love it as much. Like I can separate my personal opinion of the film from the critical reaction to the film. It is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
Like on a technical level, everything it's superb, but it just didn't connect with me emotionally when I was watching it.
it's not a film that you're going to watch every year just to bang it on. Just as like I think like Inception. If we're talking Nolan
Inception.
films, Inception is one of those films that you could probably watch every year if you wanted.
Yeah.
Like you could just bang it on and enjoy it. But this isn't going to be one of those films. This is going to be a film that you'd maybe watch every like 5 years because it's very full on.
Whenever the Russians get a bit antsy, and you're like, watch Oppenheimer.
You've got Kim Jong Un. That's like, he set off his new bomb because he's developing a H bomb, isn't he, at the moment, or he's done it. I can't remember what the stories are, but
I don't want to know.
Yeah, you mentioned leaving the cinema and not having that moment of we're fucked. So yeah. I didn't have that moment of we're fucked because I feel like I've kind of always had that fear of at any moment some maniac could just push the button and boom, that's it, done. Our maniac's Rishi Sunak at the moment. You've seen the campaign trail in America, and you've got Trump. That's he's already had that power, and then you've got Biden at the moment, who can hardly stay awake. So it's quite.
To be fair, man, that was me towards the end of Oppenheimer, but not for anyone, just because it was long.
Yeah, I didn't feel. Sorry, that's a separate note, but I didn't feel that way. I know it kept me very much engaged like throughout the film. But anyway, I did leave with that sort of that moment of humanity really has gotten to that point where this H bomb exists. Okay, it's not being used, but it is fucking frightening.
I mean, I think getting back to what we were saying about like the performances and all that in the film. Let's talk Cillian Murphy. Now we know he's a brilliant actor. It's funny. I don't think as many people know him overseas as they do in the UK because obviously of Peaky Blinders over here, and he's been in a lot of big American films, and but he's never been the lead, has he? As such, in them. Red Eye,
Red
where he
Eye?
played the
Yeah,
villain.
yeah.
Red Eye, obviously the Scarecrow in Batman.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously he's not I mean, he's been in quite a lot of Nolan films, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's one of his favourites.
That character.
But what I think he does superbly in this, and this is a definite directorial choice, is he underacts a lot of it. He doesn't do these big, there's not that bit where, because everyone's talking about him for a Best Oscar winner, for a Best Actor. And I love to see it purely because it's not the typical Best Actor performance. He underplays it. It's all internal.
Yeah, it's a lot of face. Yeah,
exactly. The enormity of what he's created is shown by the constant close-ups on his face, rather than he doesn't have that big scene where he's arguing. He doesn't often get really loud and rah, 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 give me my Oscar. I mean, he should get a Best Actor nomination at the very least. And so far for this year, for me as well, I think he should win it. To be fair,
even
I haven't seen a better performance.
Yeah. Even in the moments where he is meant to be, it's an emotional scene. For instance, his jubilation of seeing it happen, and then his realization of seeing it happen.
Yeah,
and the A bomb going off, and then the moment where he realizes Florence Pugh has committed suicide. I've forgotten the character's name, or she's not a character. She actually existed. The woman's name. So that was probably the only moment where we saw some real raw emotion from him.
Yeah.
And then you see emotion in him when he's in his sort of miniature trial, which his bullshit trial, which again, it's very underplayed. It is all very face.
I mean, I think there was also prepping to clear room for an Oscar on his man. It was probably got to be Robert Downey Jr. As he's kind of like the film's eventual villain, really, isn't he? As Lewis
I don't
Strauss.
think there's anything eventual about it.
No, but it's not. So for me, it wasn't as obvious at the start of the film.
Oh, I see what you mean. No, okay, no, I fucked up.
Because as I was watching it, I'm like, it's only like towards the end, or maybe 3/4 through, that you realise, oh shit, he's the guy who's
yes, I get you.
Every convenience.
No, definitely, yes.
Just because of a petty slight that he imagined with all the stuff to do with Weinstein, and obviously the bit where he didn't back him in one of the congressional hearings earlier on in the film.
Yeah, and then just intends to discredit him altogether so that he has no influence over atomic bomb and
policy going forward. That's it. Yeah,
it is really interesting. That whole court scene and the whole everything about that sort of end third of the film was very dramatic and very impactful. But if you actually think about what's happening, it's literally just to discredit one person's influence in government.
It's not that important in the grand scheme of things, is it?
Well, I suppose it is, because he's trying to stop the H bomb from existing, essentially.
But he's too passive of a protagonist, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like even his wife says to him repeatedly, "Why don't you fight back? Why don't you?"
That scene where she claps back.
Oh, Emily Blunt. Well, let's talk Emily Blunt quickly then. I mean, there aren't many women in the film, to be fair. I think there's 3 female characters, to be fair. You've got Florence Pugh, who basically is his communist mistress and spends 3/4 of her screen time naked before she offs herself in the bath.
I was surprised by that.
But, I mean, did we really see enough of their relationship to think she was that obsessed with him that she's going to off herself? She wasn't in it enough for me to buy that relationship. And I get, it feels like it's from a different film, what they're trying to tell there.
I agree with that, because like I said, the moment where she committed suicide and he has that raw emotional impact hitting him, being like, "Oh, I caused this." I'm like, Did you? Like, because you don't really get a fully realized understanding of her mental health leading up to anything.
The other female character, before we get to Emily Blunt, you've got Judge Anderson from Judge Dredd, the great Olivia Thirlby, and she has maybe 2 lines in the whole film as Lily Hornig, and she's one of the scientists. Literally, her opening line is when she turns up at the town, and she's like, "I'm a scientist, not a receptionist," or it's something like that. and then she has like maybe one other line in the film, and that's it. Why even cast her like a relatively? I mean, not no known actor, but anyway, yeah, I was just like, oh, she's really good because she was in Judge Dredd, and she was also in Y: The Last Man, and then here she had 2 lines. I think that's one of the potential issues of the film for me is that its treatment of the female characters. It's like you say, bar Philby, Blunt, and Pugh. There are really no female characters of any consequence. Look, I get it. This is a biopic about the man who built the atomic bomb. I know, arguably, he needed the help of many more amazing scientists to make the bomb altogether. As we know, the way women were treated in the 40s and 50s was very different. So obviously, their influence and I'm sure
Reflection of the
there are
time,
books out.
isn't it?
Exactly, I'm sure there are books out there. I'm sure the character that Philby played, Lily Hornet. I'm sure there's a whole book. I'm sure there's books about her and how she was involved in it. But at the time, women just weren't credited, and the film kind of pays lip service to that a little bit. And I get why they're not doing that, making a bigger deal out of it, because it's trying to be historically accurate to the point.
Yeah, I mean, looking further away from women as well, it's the film's all just white men. Oh, mainly old white men as well. Like mid-40s.
Well, the world's sort of changed there, has it?
So it's there you have it. Just a reflect. I suppose it is just a reflection of the time.
And tying us back to Emily Blunt, and what you were just saying about her having that brilliant scene where she just finally snaps in the meeting. I mean, she's a brilliant actress. We all love Emily Blunt. She's amazing in everything she does. But in this film, all she is she just plays angry and drunk for most of the film. Like she's so far in the background. When you first see her introduced, she's literally in the background of the scene, sitting in that room, which is the first time we see her. At least I think it is. I'm not 100%.
I can't remember the first introduction to her, but I don't know. I never felt that way of her being sort of a sidelined background character. I suppose she is a.
She is.
She's the solid throughout the film for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I mean, she stands by him after the affair and all that.
But I never really saw her. I don't know. I never really saw her as the background character. As that, like, in the shadows kind of.
For me, we didn't really get enough scenes with just the two of them talking about their life because he's so shut down, isn't he? A lot of the time it's just all about the job, really. So I guess they kind of hinted at with like the drink. I mean, the scene where they she can't deal with the baby and they just take the baby and give it to a friend.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But they were, at least they were together when they did that as well. I was going to say, one of the things I really liked in the film was the build up to the test, and I loved the line that Benny Sadifi's character comes out with when he goes, "I think there is a small chance that we could ignite the atmosphere and destroy the whole planet." And then obviously Murphy's got to relay that information to Matt Damon's character.
Yeah, just there was like a half an hour difference between those two conversations. I was there because I felt like that conversation happened like before the bomb had even been started work on, right? And then the bomb was made, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, this might ignite the atmosphere, but don't worry about it." I feel like that's another thing that's frightening. Is just scientists doing stuff based off theory, and that they're not. I mean, I'm not fucking smart enough to understand any of it anyway. But if there's like a 1% chance that you could destroy the world, why the fuck are you doing it?
Would you even? Yeah.
Like I feel like the same thing happened with the
Hadron Collider.
Yeah. Wasn't the first time that was tested? Wasn't there something similar? Like I remember reading a similar news story being like, "There's a 1% chance this could create a black hole and destroy everything."
Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, fantastic, cool." Like,
but we're going to do it anyway because science.
I feel like that's going to come back and bite you in there. I mean, that's just as frightening as the idea of man being able to destroy each other.
I was about to say, how many books and movies have there already been made where the Hadron Collider like rips a hole somewhere and something evil and horrific comes through? In fact, actually, that was one of my favourite zombie books of all time. The Rising was based on something like the Hadron Collider, where it ripped a hole in our reality and all these demonic spirits ploughed through and took over all the corpses. And
okay, I mean, I think
zombies.
I think the sort of igniting the atmosphere black hole kind of thing is maybe a little bit more realistic, which is really what's frightening about it. I mean, I wouldn't be too bothered about. I probably would be too bothered about zombies coming through, but I suppose that's a more interesting way to go than the immediate death that would come with actual, fucking with science too much.
If you ignite the atmosphere, I don't know. Would it be almost instant, or would it be?
I'd assume so. Would you?
Don't know how fast it will travel.
I don't know. You might get a news article, you might get that warning come up on your phone saying you're fucked.
This is our last broadcast. One of the other highlights to me, obviously, because he's great in everything he does, Matt Damon as the general in charge of the Manhattan Project. Also, coming back, we haven't seen him for a while, and he's suddenly everywhere again. Josh Hartnett, suddenly major role in a major film again. And it's funny because his episode of Black Mirror came out recently as well with Aaron Paul that is superb. And it's just funny. He's having like a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's like, what happened?
I think he
like,
just chose to stop acting. I think he just chose to like take a step back.
I'm pretty sure he's been like, if you have a look at his IMDb, he's been working consistently.
Remember, he disappeared for a while after like the teen stuff. Then the first thing I remember seeing him in for a while was Penny Dreadful. He was really good. He was one of the lead characters in that show, and he was brilliant in 30 Days a Night. But it's funny because it's just all the comments in the first line is like, Josh Hartnett's back, and he's still really hot. That's basically what
he is still really hot. The last thing I think I watched him in was like 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Oh god, yeah, that's in this middle. I almost refer to that as his Zac Efron.
I mean, aside from the Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it's that kind of bit where he just does the easy romantic comedies and like he's not really doing any challenging work. And I just think I remember because everyone kept saying this a little while ago, and I think I saw interviews recently with him. He was just like, yeah, we just get on with life, and then he act when I think he was obviously smart of his money and just acted when he wanted to when the right projects come up. Must be great to be smart enough and like be in a position to do that. Also, a shout out to Alden Ehrenreich, who was superb as Strauss's aide. I was trying to find his character name, and it literally just said Strauss's aide. So I don't even know if his character was actually had a name other than that. And come on, Hollywood, yes, Solo was bad, but it wasn't Ehrenreich's fault. It was Emilia Clarke's. No, I joke. However, no, I can't talk about Secret Invasion here because I'm still trying to block it, remove it from my brain via new scientific techniques. Anyway, what I was basically trying to say was a lot of this really starry cast are really just extended cameos, barely having more than one scene. Jack Quaid from The Boys, he's in it. Okay, Tom Conti, he's in it. Couldn't even tell you who Tom Conti was. Who else? Let's go look at the list. Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, Dane DeHaan, Jason Clarke, Matthew Modine, and that's just the ones like thought off the top of my head without looking at that list. But it's a really long list, and it just did feel like here's a big actor, one scene, there we go.
Mean, yeah, like Quaid was a scientist, wasn't he? So he was in a few of the scenes.
Although to be fair, me and Jose had this similar argument and talk about Barbie, where they made such a big deal out of all the cast in it, all these big actors, and bar a few, most of them, they're just Kens and Barbies with not many lines in them at all. But then Jose's point on that was, well, yeah, but you've got really good actors with a couple of lines, and all of them nail those lines. And I was like,
I didn't realise Gary Oldman was Truman.
Truman, yeah, man. I did. I did know that, but I forgot it when I was watching it, and it was only when I saw the credits like, oh yeah, fuck.
That's I think that's just testament to the man and his fucking acting.
Oh, he could just play anyone, can't he?
Yeah.
Goes from Slow Horses back to playing like Churchill, and how the same man plays Churchill and Truman. I mean, Jesus.
Although I don't think Truman had come out of it with the best of reputations. Did he? Out of that,
no,
don't let that fucking crybaby back in there. Whatever he says.
Now, I think another thing, David, I thought of on this is a big part of why the film didn't connect emotionally with me is I think the one kind of major mistake it makes, it doesn't show the effects of the bomb. And I get that it's Oppenheimer's story and not the story of World War II and the bomb in the grander sense. But I think even a bit of stock footage from the time would have been sufficient to show that no one should have that kind of power.
So yes, I have because you hear about the bomb going off through, is it a news broadcast or a radio broadcast? It's something you don't, or is it a news article? Or people just, I can't remember. I'm getting confused with the Pacific because I remember in the Pacific, they just literally it's word of mouth how they hear about it. But anyway, I have a very similar issue. It's not necessarily that you don't see the bomb being used, because I think the bomb, they're called Fat Man and Little Boy, aren't they? The two bombs.
That's the ones.
That are dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I don't have a problem with it not showing the actual bomb explosion in whatever footage you want. My issue is that there wasn't a single Japanese person in the entire film. You know, a film basically based off 120,000 Japanese people being killed because of the effects of this man's and his team, because it's not
Creation.
solely him. He just managed the team. And yeah, not a single Japanese. I feel like it would have been good just to see like an American Japanese person just like walk past him in the street or something whilst he's having his existential guilt crisis. That would have been, something at least. But yeah, to just not have a single Japanese person. I mean, I can understand why you don't, because
You
it's
could have
not.
intercut that, couldn't you? At the end, you could have intercut that. When he's having his big moment, you could have intercut like real shots, even still a few still pictures. You didn't need to like hammer it over the head. Just 2 or 3 images that like really sort of summed it up. I mean, I'd actually forgotten this earlier today. It's only when I was doing my research for the episode, and I forgot. I've been to Nagasaki, man. I've seen the atomic bomb museum they have there, and obviously it's all from the Japanese side. And I still remember when I was there being amazed that there's a part of a church, like an arch and a bit of brick on the side of it, that is still standing and somehow survived the bombing. And also parts of the ground and walls from there at the time have been removed and placed in the museum. And they show you these black smudges of where people were just kind of like vaporized into the ground or vaporized into the stonework and the buildings. And yeah, I remember it was the day after my birthday, so I was slightly hungover, and I was like, "Well, I want to do this someday." Then I had to go and film something in the Peace Park in Nagasaki, so I was like, "Okay, well, I'm here. Let's do it." But I knew it was going to be a real bummer of a day, man. Like, and I obviously
It's
being
harrowing, isn't it?
oh man, and you just kind of looking at all this stuff and going, and that's how I probably that's on some subconscious level, having been there and seen it, what the bomb did. That's probably why the film didn't affect me in some way, because I've been there and seen the aftermath from like the Japanese
you
people.
think that would affect you more?
Well, because I don't know. I think it's because, like you say, I think they should have just gone. Don't necessarily have to show the bomb. Just even like 2 or 3 black or white photos intercut with his like big moment of like showing just the famous pictures of like the wreckage afterwards. I mean, I really think we actually needed to see the effects of I'll tell you another reason why I need to see the effects of the bomb and then cut back to Oppenheimer is to really, I mean, look at younger audiences today, right? A lot of younger audiences, you have some, it's so many years in the past now, and not showing it, people might not think, oh, okay. I just think you kind of need to...
Yeah, so on the younger audiences thing, we were talking off the podcast earlier about Call of Duty. Do you know in Call of Duty, when you get like a 25 kill streak or whatever in the older games,
right,
you get to call in a nuclear strike in the game.
Yeah, I remember.
And it just finishes the game off, basically. So yeah, that's, I mean, trivializing it for a video game, but then again, that's a whole other conversation. But that in itself is like how games will be
and literally, as you said that, one of my news things popped up, and it said Warner Brothers apologized for distasteful Barbenheimer or Oppenheimer advert in Japan. And it was literally like something, the greatest thing you'll see this summer or something like that. I didn't see the exact quote because it just popped up and then disappeared. But I remember I was going to mention that like, again, the whole Barbenheimer thing, people have like mixed the posters and you got Barbie there with a bomb going off in the background. And I think some people have kind of, yes, I could easily see how 9 out of 10 people are going to look at it and just not think twice about it. Oh, it's Barbenheimer. That's the hashtag. That's the thing of the moment. We're going to talk about it. We're going to blend two things together. But there is that extra level of note. But you're now trivializing, like you said, was it 120,000 people getting killed?
Yeah, I think that's the minimum. I think
minimum.
Like,
is that just like the direct from it, and then obviously what all the
I think
fallout and
there's
the
like
radiation
up
over
to
the years?
226,000.
Yeah.
The majority of them were civilians as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
Completely harmless. It should be the reason why the bomb was created in the first place as well, was to beat the Nazis into creating a bomb, which is fine. But then during the movie, Hitler commits suicide, doesn't he? Germany surrenders. Hitler commits suicide, and then obviously Japan and the war in the Pacific is what they're focusing on. but the Japanese aren't developing a bomb. So it's literally used as a, because the Japanese aren't surrendering. It's used as a, let's bring our troops home and kill a bunch of civilians to do it. It's really quite frightening.
I feel more bummed out and disturbed by talking about it than I do actually watching
I feel
it.
like that's a part of it, though, isn't it? Because it brings into conversation that topic of power and the themes of power that are running throughout the film. That like who should have this is a power that man shouldn't wield.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely, man.
like even having the ability to kill, man killing man's happened fucking the beginning of time, right? You'd have had some, you know, a relative of our Homo sapien ancestor, you know, whatever, bashing someone in the head with a rock.
With a rock.
Yeah. You know, whatever. And then it's just then you get, oh, we can grind an axe or, hone a sword, and then we can shoot a gun or a cannon or whatever. And you got, arrows or whatever. And then, wars just evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved until it's got to this point where weapons of mass destruction are a thing. And like the H bomb, like I said, it's not being used, but it's fucking frightening. The H bomb, and it's you just think what they're developing at the moment. Where does it go? Are we going into the realms of because the H bomb, I think the atom bomb, reading into the differences between the two. Obviously, it's the H bomb. One's a fission reaction and one's a fusion reaction propelled by the fission reaction, I believe. I don't know. I'm not a fucking physicist. The difference is a 1 mile bomb compared to like a 10-mile bomb. So what's next? Do you have chemical warfare potentially? Drop some sort of drop a disease on a.
It's this weird thing, isn't it, where like people seem to, especially with war, where people just tend to go, "Oh no, there are rules to war." No, there's not. I mean, just look at the Russia and Ukraine at the minute.
Yeah, the term war crime has always been a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? Like, oh, that's a war crime. You committed a war crime, especially war crimes that the people are being held accountable for now that happened in like World War II, for instance, or something like that, which is.
And how many years will it be until we hear about what's going on at the minute in like Russia and Ukraine, and wherever the next like global conflict comes from.
Yeah, but just the idea of like Putin. That's the crisis. That's the power that someone wields over others, and some of it's unelected power as well.
I can't see. I live in hope that if we ever got to that situation, cooler heads would prevail, just like with the Cuban Missile Crisis. And at the end of the day, what makes the world run in every country, in even all the corrupt countries around the world, what makes it run? Money. If you blow everyone up, no one else gets any money. So, I mean, I'm sure behind the scenes, people are like working to take out Putin or remove his influence. And this is here. We've actually bizarrely talked about this on some of my day job shows, on some of the property shows, and people have talked about who's going to rebuild Ukraine. It'll be all the Russian companies. And they're going to profit from it, from what they've destroyed. And whoever replaces Putin, whenever that happens, they'll make this big show of like, oh yeah, we didn't, we're the good guys now. Yay, come to Russia. And we're sorry about it. And you might even get an apology, to be fair, with the Russians these days. But they'll portray that image, and then the rest of the world will go, great, now we can trade with them again. And it's all about money.
Yeah.
That's the cynic in me. And I just think the whole world's about money. And no one's going to blow the world up just because I don't think we're ever going to get to that stage. There's always going to be someone going, no, it's all about money. It doesn't matter about this other stuff.
Yes, just political tensions. I don't think either of us are smarter enough to properly touch upon that subject of political.
Well, I think it's time to start coming towards the end of this dark and disturbing discussion. Any more major points you got to talk about, David?
No, not really. Just that it was a brilliant film. I think it was a masterpiece. I think it was a. Wait, no, I don't think it was a masterpiece. No, backtrack. I think it was a 5-star film. But I did call it a masterpiece coming straight out of the cinema.
Yeah,
but it was like sort of the combination of the best moments of other movies. Like it had elements of like The Social Network in it, with the courtroom scenes. 12 Angry Men. It had a lot of Nolan's best hits in there as well, and it had a bunch of the best moments from other movies all sort of crammed into this one film, and it was really, yeah, it was a fucking good film. And like the as I mentioned at the beginning, there were the specific moments that were like at the end of after watching it, I was like, started to reflect on it and thought it wasn't as masterful as I thought. But then there were specific scenes that really was just like perfect. Like, it was a fucking masterclass of cinema. The one where he's explaining to the group of celebrating people. What even were they?
Workers.
Yeah, were they just
people who ran the town?
Yeah, there's people. All those people celebrating that he's like, yes, we've done it. And then he's the fucking sound design for that, the editing for that, the direction of it, the acting, just everything perfectly come together in that. And it was that scene was like just perfect. And then you had a similar moment with him and his bullshit trial. Again, that scene just perfect. And there was a few of these moments in the film where you're like, that is a perfect moment in cinema.
It's a highlight reel shot, isn't it? It's a highlight reel clip.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it is just that is it. That is pure perfection in cinema.
Finally, for me, I have to wonder if Oppenheimer would have done so well without being paired with Barbie. Because Barbie is currently around 750 million and Oppenheimer is currently around 400 million, which, for like we said earlier, for a 3-hour-long drama about nuclear annihilation, without any real action set pieces and just people talking, it's massively impressive. And though I wonder how, and also I was wondering, when it comes down to awards, how these two films are going to fare. Now, I was thinking about it, and of course, you haven't seen Barbie yet, but I think Barbie for sure is going to get nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Production Design, and maybe even acting nods for Robbie and Gosling. But most importantly, Gerwig, she's going to get nominated for Best Director for it, man. I will be amazed if she doesn't. Oppenheimer is going to get Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film, Best Director, and acting nods for Murphy and Downey Jr. And maybe even Blunt steals a Best Supporting Actress nod. I mean, I at the minute, I can't see anything else that is going to derail these two films. Barbie has become such a cultural phenomenon, as well as Oppenheimer. I just wonder. I wonder, would Oppenheimer have done as well? I don't think he would have.
I understand what you're saying. Probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think we're right on that one, because there was a stat from one of the cinemas in the States where they said they'd pre-sold 220,000 tickets for the double bill on the first day. Yeah, that's just making it a thing. I think that's it, man. I think Barbenheimer is over, and who won? Well, obviously it was Barbie in terms of box office, but you know who really won, David? Cinema. Because cinemas has had
cinema is the winner
the biggest weekends it's seen since the pandemic, and that's all we really want. We want cinema to win, because when two completely different films from different studios get paired together because of an internet hashtag and both excel at the box office, I will say, David, just for the love of God, do not look at the Saw Patrol hashtag.
I've seen it already. Saw, yeah, the Saw X and the Paw Patrol film.
I mean, people are trying, but just no.
I've already made that mistake.
I think this was. I don't think this is going to be replicated, and we talked about this a bit on the Barbie one, where like they're talking about all the spin-offs and all the different properties they could do. And I just think the whole Barbenheimer thing, it was lightning in a bottle, and I don't think you're going to be able to recreate it. And they're going to try and recreate it. They definitely will, but I don't think it's going to work.
I've already tried now with fucking Paw Patrol and Saw.
Saw Patrol. Hashtag Saw Patrol.
Yeah, I feel like that's not studios. I feel like that's just people. You know,
it's just the internet trying to guess the next thing, man.
Yeah. The although I have two last questions for you before you go. Out of the two films, what do you reckon will win more awards? We know which is going to gross more. That's obvious.
I think Oppenheimer's going to get more purely because of the technical side.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I agree.
But I think it'll pick up. I think Downey Jr. and Murphy, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. That's just nailed on.
And lastly, although Barbie could get Best Original Song.
Oh yeah, song definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's what's weird is because they're so different films anyway, that the nominations they're going to get are going to be quite different as well. Like Barbie song, production design, costume, all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised because Robbie's performance in it is really good. She's superb in it. And Gosling, I mean, you probably can't escape the memes on the internet.
Yeah. Okay. The last question is where does Oppenheimer rank in your Christopher Nolan list? Because like Christopher Nolan is one of these directors now that he pretty much doesn't have a bad film in his.
I wouldn't have it that high, man. Off the top of my head, without planning it and thinking it through, just like now, I'd say number 1, Inception. Number 2, Dark Knight. Number 3, Prestige. Do you know what? I'd even probably put Interstellar before it because it's got more of an emotional core to it. Oppenheimer's definitely above Tenet, and it's definitely above Insomnia. Maybe even above Memento. So I'd put it mid. It's like in the mid-level Nolan for me.
Okay, well like we said, Christopher Nolan's someone that doesn't have a bad film, so mid-level Nolan still fucking amazing. The only Nolan film I haven't seen is Following.
That's why I didn't mention it.
I've seen the rest. Yeah, fair enough. So I would put it. The Dark Knight is number 1 for me, and then I put The Prestige number 2, Memento number 3, and then probably Oppenheimer
above Inception.
But yeah, a little, yeah. Even like I love Inception. But yeah, I probably would put it above Inception. I put it, and then I didn't like Interstellar much at all.
I liked it.
And Insomnia is probably one of the lowest ones for me. Oh no, Dunkirk. You know what? It's fucking hard. It is really hard because he's got such a good collection of film, like catalog, whatever it's called, of films that he's done. Insomnia I put at the bottom, and then Interstellar because I didn't like it much. Fuck, and then Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, Tenet. Yeah, I would have Tenet above the Dark Knight Rises and the Batman Begins.
I'd have it above the Dark Knight Rises, but I wouldn't have it above Batman Begins.
It is hard. I enjoy Tenet though. The more I watch it, the more I enjoy it.
I just don't care. Well, as I'm watching,
I feel like it's.
I've seen it 3 times
I feel like
now.
It's his James Bond, isn't it? It's like it's.
See, I'd argue Inception's more his James Bond. I feel there's sequences in that, like especially the skiing down the hill sequence for the big shootout near the end in Inception. I was just like, that felt like his James Bond audition. And there was a cryptic thing, wasn't there? Do you reckon Nolan is finally going to do a Bond next?
Don't know. I think the man will do what the man wants to do.
Someone asked him the question the other day, and he didn't say no outright. So like everyone was just like,
no, I think the man will do what the man wants to do. It'd be interesting to see other people's rankings. Actually, let's ask them. Ask them, Neil. Add it to your ending.
Yeah, so when this episode goes out, and you've obviously got to the end, thanks for listening, then please give us your Nolan rankings. Drop them on the end of our Twitter. Drop them over at Fred's. Me and David are both on Fred's as well now. So you can find us over there as well. Because whatever Twitter is, and we're not calling it the other thing, David, I refuse. I'm not calling it that letter of the alphabet or that Ty West film.
It's fucking awful, isn't it? It's broken as well. Since it's turned to come out, the app's just completely broken.
Yeah, it's... Hey, we haven't got enough time left to talk about everything that's wrong with Elon Musk.
Dude, you had dolphins for dolphins, right?
Oh, yeah, I had dolphins on my lunch walk today.
At Folkestone?
Or they might be porpoises.
Fucking hell, where?
Right off the harbour arm, where the lighthouse is. I was doing my lunch walk.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
What's a porpoise?
It's a smaller kind of dolphin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you look, there's a whole thread underneath where people arguing whether it's a dolphin or porpoise. And as always, nice to have you back, David, derailing the end of the podcast, as always. So we've barbed, we've heimed, we've Barbenheimed, and now what's next? Well, soon we will be doing another podcast on what films we're looking forward to for the rest of the year. Off the top of my head, we've got The Creator, and of course, we have got Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, sorry, was I meant to say that? You had like a pause there, or I didn't know whether I should come in or not.
And we'll see you next time. Maybe not David, because I'm going to put him back in his dungeon again till Halloween.
We need to do. You don't let me do my horror films. You don't let.
Get in your basement, David.
Makes
We're
me
going to
sad.
open you out for Halloween.
I've had like 15 horror films I've wanted to talk about. You're watching crap on other stuff that you're going to want to talk about on streaming services that no one subscribes to.
Like Foundation, the greatest sci-fi show.
Whereas you should be talking about amazing horror films on a streaming service that everyone subscribes to, like Shudder.
We'd like to let you know we are not actually sponsored by Shudder, although David might be, considering how much he's...
We should be.
David, bearing in mind how many films David has watched at Shudder. All right, well, this is just going off the rails. See you next time, folks. David, get back in your dungeon.
Yeah, I'm right. I've said goodbye now, okay? Lunchtime.
Dungeon.
We needed roads.